You're standing in a cave. It's dark. Your hand is pressed against cold stone. And then you hear it, a voice. But it's not coming from anyone's mouth. It's coming from the wall. How? That's not possible. Except it happened. And it changed everything. Let me rewind, but not too far. Because the real story of how ancient humans communicated isn't about grunts and hand gestures. That's the boring version. The version you've been told. The truth? It's way weirder and way more terrifying. Imagine you're a Neanderthal. You've just killed a mammoth. It took 6 hours. Your arms feel like they're about to fall off. You need to tell your group where the meat is, so you do what any sensible hominid does. You scream, you point, you grunt. That works. For now. But then you die, and your knowledge dies with you. That's the problem. Every generation starts from zero. No memory, no history, just raw survival. So, how did they fix it? They didn't invent language overnight. That's a myth. Language didn't appear like a light switch, it oozed slowly over hundreds of thousands of years. But here's the twist: the first real breakthrough wasn't words, it was something you'd never guess: fire. Not for cooking, not for warmth. Fire was the first communication device. Think about it: a fire at night. Someone throws a green branch on, it smokes. The smoke is a signal. But what does it mean? Danger? Food? Come home? You don't know. And that's exactly the point. Because not knowing forced them to create a shared meaning. You and I agree that 3 puffs of smoke mean run. So the smoke isn't just smoke anymore. It's a secret language written in the air. But smoke disappears. What if you need to leave a message for someone who's not there? That's where it gets crazy. Somewhere around 300,000 years ago, a human picked up a piece of ochre. Red rock? They scratched the pattern onto a stone. A zigzag? Nobody knows what it means. But here's what nobody tells you. That zigzag was the first street, the first post, the first piece of information that outlived its creator. It was a message to the future, to you, right now. That scratch is a bridge across time. And it worked. You're looking at it, you're reading it, but you still don't know what it says. That's the horror. A message with no decoder. So they tried again and again. They started painting hands on cave walls, dots, animals. The famous Lascaux cave, beautiful, but it wasn't art. Art is a luxury. These were instructions: where the bison migrate, how to kill a deer, where the water is. One painting shows a bird on a stick. A shaman? No, it's a map, a story, a warning. And here's the twist: they didn't paint the animals they ate, they painted the ones that scared them, the predators, the dangerous ones. Why? Because fear spreads faster than food. A painting of a lion is a warning that lasts longer than a scream. But still, you can only say so much with a picture. You can't say, I love you. You can't say tomorrow. You can say why. So they needed something else. And then something insane happened. A group of humans in what is now Israel did something no one had done before. They took a piece of bone and carved little notches into it. Not random, in rows, in sequences. It's the oldest calendar. They were tracking the moon, counting days. But here's the mind-bending part. That bone wasn't for them. It was for their ancestors. They were leaving a record of time itself. A message saying, we existed. We watched the sky. We knew we were not alone. But you want to know the real kicker? The thing that changes everything? They had speech. They must have. Our vocal cords evolved about 500,000 years ago. So they could talk. But they didn't talk about what you think. They didn't gossip about each other. They didn't plan hunting parties. No, the first conversations were about spirits, about things they couldn't see. Because the biggest problem wasn't finding food, it was explaining the fear of the dark, the wind, the lightning. Communication wasn't just about survival, it was about making sense of a world that made no sense. So they invented the most powerful communication tool ever, a tool we still use today: storytelling. Around the fire, a person stands up, they use their hands, their voice changes, they pretend to be an animal, they make the group feel what they feel. That's not just talking, That's empathy transfer. That's how you get 100 people to work together without a boss. It's how you create culture. You tell a story about a hero who killed a bear, and now everyone believes they can kill a bear. That story is more real than the bear, because the bear dies. The story lives forever. But hold on. If storytelling was so powerful, why didn't they just keep doing that? Why did they need writing, paintings, symbols? Because storytelling has a fatal flaw. It changes every time it's told. You tell the bear story tonight. Tomorrow, your friend adds a detail. A week later, the bear is now a monster with 3 heads. The truth dissolves. So they needed a way to lock the story down, to make it fixed, immutable. And that's when they started using the human body, not to speak, to count fingers, toes, knuckles. The first number system was your hand, 5 fingers, 10 fingers. But here's the twist that will break your brain. They didn't count objects, they counted time. How many full moons until the salmon return? How many sleeps until the hunt? Your hand became a clock, a calendar, a contract. You hold up 3 fingers. That means 3 days. But what if you need to say 3 days to someone who isn't looking? You carve 3 notches on a stick. You give them the stick. Now that stick is a promise, the first written contract. And if they break it, you break their fingers. Communication has consequences. Now, fast forward. Thousands of years, humans spread across the planet, and they all face the same problem. How do you talk to a dead person? Your ancestor, your god, the voice in the wind. You can't, but you can pretend you can. And that's where the shaman comes in. The shaman is the first professional communicator. They don't just talk to people, they talk to the invisible, and they use every trick, drums, dancing, hallucinogenic plants. They enter a trance and they come back with a message from the other side. Is it real? Doesn't matter, because the group believes it, and belief is the strongest communication network. It creates shared reality, a world where a mask is not a mask, it's the spirit, where a cave painting is not paint, it's a photo. But here's the terrifying part. They were right, not about the spirits, about the need to communicate with the dead. Because that's what writing is. Writing is talking to people who aren't alive. You write a word, you die. Someone reads it 1,000 years later. They hear your voice. You are literally talking from the grave. And the first full system of doing that? Sumeria. Around 3400 BC, they invented cuneiform, little wedge-shaped marks on clay, and they used it for the most boring thing ever, accounting, beer receipts, grain shipments. But that's the secret. The first writing wasn't poetry, it was inventory, because the most important thing to track was who owed what. Debt, money, power. Communication became control. If you can write down that someone owes you 5 sheep, you can enforce it forever. The written word is a leash. But that's not the twist. The twist is that writing almost destroyed human memory. Before writing, people had to remember everything. They trained their brains. Epic poems, 10,000 lines long. Genealogies that went back 50 generations. They could store entire libraries in their head. But once you write it down, your brain softens. Why remember when you can look it up? The first generation of literate humans had worse memories than their grandparents. They traded internal knowledge for external storage. A fair trade? Maybe. But it changed the way they thought. They stopped thinking in stories. They started thinking in lists, categories, laws. The world became more rigid, more controlled, and more lonely. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. When you speak, you can see the person's face. You can adjust. You can laugh. When you write, you're alone. The reader is alone. Writing is the first form of social isolation. It let us talk to strangers, but it also made strangers of everyone close to us. So what did they do? They tried to bring writing back to life. They added rhythms, rhymes. They sang the words, poetry, chants. That's why ancient hymns and spells sound like songs, because they are. They're trying to trick the brain into feeling the presence of another human, even when that human is just marks on a page. And then came the final revolution, the one that connects everything, alphabets. Instead of thousands of symbols, you get 22. You can write any word. You can learn it in weeks. Suddenly, anyone can communicate, not just priests and scribes. Ordinary people, shepherds, fishermen, they could write letters, love notes, insults. The alphabet democratized the invisible, and it spread like a virus because it was the most efficient mind to mind transfer ever invented. But efficiency has a price. The alphabet made communication fast, but it also made it shallow. A long, slow story from a shaman around a fire takes hours. It bonds people. An alphabet text, you read it in seconds. You forget it in minutes. The bandwidth increased. The depth decreased. Now, look at your phone. That's the end of the line. A direct descendant of a fire signal, a cave painting, a clay tablet. But here's what's happening right now. You're watching this video. You're receiving a message from me. But I'm not there. I'm a ghost, a voice from a recording, a digital version of that shaman who danced with ancestors. But I can't see your face. I can't adjust. So I'm screaming into the void. And you're listening in the dark. That's exactly how it felt for them. 40,000 years ago. A human standing on a hill, holding a torch, waving it left, then right, left again. A distant hill flashes back, one flash, two. They're saying something. What? You don't know, but you know it matters. And now you have a choice. You can keep watching, you can scroll, or you can look up from this screen and realize something terrifying. The way they communicated is exactly the way you communicate. They just had less technology, the same fear, the same need to be heard, the same terror of being forgotten, and the deepest, darkest secret of all, they weren't trying to talk to each other, they were trying to talk to you. Because every mark left behind by an ancient hand is a message aimed at the future, at someone who would one day find it, someone like you. They knew you were coming. They prepared a whisper that would last 10,000 years. And it worked. You heard it, you're hearing it now. But here's the question you won't be able to shake. What are you leaving behind for someone who hasn't been born yet? What message will survive your voice? The answer should terrify you because you're already writing it with every video you watch, every comment you type, every thought you have. It's all going into the cave wall of the internet. And someday, a million years from now, some being will look at this moment. They'll see your digital scratch and they will try to understand what you meant. Good luck explaining. If you want to stay in the loop for the next rabbit hole, hit subscribe because the next one is about the worst day in the history of human communication and you won't believe what caused it. See you then.